Hi and welcome to the Nuclear Snail channel. In this episode we're gonna talk about shoes. Oh my god, I love shoes! Seriously though guys, you have asked me this "what about shoes" question so many times, I'm answering it now. Just so you stop asking. Before we start, I know that a lot of you guys are gonna be asking, what is this armor I'm wearing? And this armor is the Ragnarok shell. And we have designed it specifically for those of you who want something that is sturdy, has a great build quality, has a lot of cool features, and will absolutely positively make you look like a post-apocalyptic dystopian soldier, mercenary, fighter, warrior, badass person. Anyway, if you're interested in this armor, follow the second link in the video description to check out all of its cool features. And now we're talking about shoes again. So, in the first part of this video I'm gonna talk about my personal philosophy regarding shoes for post-apocalyptic stuff, be it LARP or festivals or anything else. And after that I'm gonna show you some examples from my friend Mia, who has some great modded post-apocalyptic boots, and I'm gonna talk about how to mod boots. Now the reason I'm showing her pictures with her kind permission and not my own is because I personally don't have a single pair of modded post-apocalyptic shoes. Yes, that's right, because, now we're getting to point one, my personal philosophy on this is just get some good military boots and be happy with them. Now, for my part, I have arrived at the conclusion that these Lova Zephyr boots are the best for me, at least so far. I'm not sponsored by them, I just highly recommend this boot because it's great. This is, by the way, the medium height. Now, I've started off LARPing and going to festivals with these, not these, but this model of the standard German Army leather boot. These boots have served me well for a long period of time. And they are great for carrying heavy loads over rough terrain for extended periods of time because of this great ankle support. They're sturdy, they're heavy, they have a thick sole, but as I've came to feel later, these qualities are not what I was looking for in those boots actually that I was wearing in those events, because they are heavy, your feet sweat in them, and basically they're just too much. Unless you're doing some hardcore military simulation all the time, especially carrying heavy loads. So after that I've switched to these boots, which are just, again, genuine leather. And these are Wanderer boots or Forest Worker boots, something like this. These worked reasonably well. They were lighter than the German Army military boots, but I still didn't feel really comfortable in them, especially they were causing problems in cold weather, because I would run, my feet would sweat even just a bit, and then it would get cold, and that's when it got really nasty, like that really cold feet feeling. I don't like it. It doesn't happen with these, because they're well ventilated, and even if you sweat, the ventilation gets all the sweat out, so you will feel a lot more comfortable in something like this. So if you're going somewhere where it's hot or cold, actually it doesn't matter, because as I just said, in cold weather it's even worse. If you're playing a character that is running around a lot, or if you're just going to a festival and gonna be running around a lot, which I think is about 99% of all the people, at least all the visitors, then just get some good tactical boots, man. Now, why do I not care about how my feet look, for that matter? Well, reason number one is I think that boots like this look cool enough. Reason number two is half of the times I will have my pants over the boots, and even if I don't, I think it's just not that important in terms of how much additional decoration you have on your shoes, because people are going to be looking at and taking pictures of your face and chest area, maybe your hips. It's not gonna be a lot of times that your feet get so much attention on pictures or otherwise on those events. So, yeah, that's my personal philosophy. Just get some good boots and don't mess with them. How do I distress my boots? Well, I have some good news for you. From all the pieces that you might have, this "it will just distress itself" mindset doesn't work at all. Except for shoes. You see, you just put them on and you wear them to one event, and that's it. They will look distressed enough, in my opinion. You can of course accelerate that process by applying the standard grunging techniques that I've shown you 100 times. Boots are no magic, there is no special boot-only approach, you use all the same tricks. Sandpaper, a steel wire brush, basically mechanical abrasion, paints, non-organic oils, spray and dust, all this stuff you've seen me show before on other parts of your costume. So that's pretty much it for the aging process. Now, if you still want to mod your shoes and you are one of the kind of people that say, hey, I don't care about how practical it is, well, you can kind of try to achieve both. It's not excluded. In fact, there are some great shoes that look more fancy, that are military boots, that are, let's call it, scene boots or gothic boots, or I don't know what even to call them. But Joe wears some of these in this picture right here. He also didn't mod them. He just leaves them like this, and they are comfortable. He wears them all the time, so works for him. And his boots look a lot more fancy than mine, or at least it's a different style. So of course you can wear boots like these, and again you can accelerate the aging process. Now, whatever style of boots you choose to wear, your feet need good support from your shoes, because otherwise you will be sending problems up your kinetic chain, to your knees, to your hips, to your spine, to your upper back even. You might actually mess up your back because your shoes suck. Please do yourself a favor, and whatever kind of shoes, whatever style of shoes you choose, whether or not you mod them on purpose or not, whether or not you add a bunch of cogwheels on top of them or not, to which we will get in a second, pick some boots that will serve your feet and your entire kinetic chain well. Alright, now with all those cautionary warnings out of the way, one last one. When going to the territory of the modded boot, be aware that it's a tripping hazard. What do you think will happen if you are going to be running around at night, somewhere in a foresty area or somewhere where the terrain is generally rough, with a cogwheel mounted onto your boot? You're gonna fall on your face and break something. I mean, there are people to whom it doesn't happen. There are people who can survive literally anything, and if you're one of them, power to you. I personally would never wear some modifications on my boots which will increase the tripping hazard. And before we get to the pictures of Mia and her really badass looking boots, be advised that she is a LARP veteran, and also she plays non-combatant characters. She doesn't run around with those shoes taking part in fights. She doesn't play airsoft in those shoes either. So let's go ahead and take a look at Mia's works and talk about what kind of modifications you can add to your shoes. It's gonna be basically inspiration and a bit of instructions, general directions, for those of you who, after all of these warnings, have decided to modify their shoes to look cool as hell. Let's do this. Okay, here is the first picture of Mia by Soulcatcher Photography. By the way, all the links to the photographers who took the picture will be in the video description, as well as a link to Mia's works, of course. So, let's take a look at those boots. So this is a great example of a boot with a thick sole, vertically thick, to which she has, as you see here, screwed some straps. So that's actually the primary method of attaching stuff to your shoes, at least stuff that goes around the shoe like this. So just get something with a thick sole and then just use screws, just like you would with wood. Not bolts, screws, because thick rubber will hold them in place just fine. You also see a chain back here. And again, if you're playing a fighter character, do not do this, because you are more likely to trip with a chain like this on rough terrain. But works fine for her sitting on the motorcycle and doing non-combatant roles, as I said. So you also see that on top of the shoes she has these cool looking Gators. That's what it's called, a gator. Those additional protective things you put on top of your shoes. So that's how it works right here. And of course she's using different materials here. You see this metallic piece. and you see those two leather pieces, and then there is a combination piece, so it's basically metal and leather working hand in hand here in a powerful composition. And here on the chain we have another sort of metal. And on this boot it's the same. So that's one way to do it, and as I've said, screwing things to the side of your boot's sole is basically the most frequent way to go. That's the best way to mount something to your boot. Here is a photo by Morrissey Andra, and you don't see very much here. I don't have this photo in high resolution, but it's a lot of belts and rope, I think, just wrapped around the boot, so that works too. I think there is something wrapped around, in between the heel piece and the rest, where there is a recess, so that also works. Obviously it wouldn't work if you wrap something under your boot in contact places where it makes contact to the ground, because then you would just not feel very comfortable running around. But if you wrap it around the recess between your heel and the front of your foot, assuming you have a recess like this, assuming you have a heeled boot, that works. And we also see some cool stuff wrapped around here. So going on, Plum Village photo art photo. And here we have some nice lightweight can parts. I always forget what they're called. I finally learned that in German they're called Dosenlaschen. I forgot what they're called in English. Before it was the other way around. Anyway, I never use them because I just find it very time consuming to attach them, but Mia did the work here and it looks great. Composition wise, check out how it's dynamically dissolving. Like here you have a lot of them, here you have, in the next row you have one missing, then the entire row is missing, then there are just two of them, and here's just, I don't know if it's another one of them or something that looks similar, but anyway, it looks like it's dynamically exploding away from that top part of the boot. A really powerful composition, and yeah, this looks great. And also, as far as shoe modifications go, I think it's one of the safer ones. Sure, one of these could break and scratch you or whatever, you still might trip, but these actually sit rather high up, almost at the knee, so the higher up something is, the less chances you have to really catch yourself on something. So this is rather safe in my opinion and also looks great. Next one, well, that one is like really, I would say post-apocalyptic meets steampunk even, and really high detail. Look at that hat, holy moly. Anyway, the shoes, yeah, you even see some horns mounted on the front of those shoes right here, and a large saw blade, and I don't know what this stuff is, but it is something. And here we have some screws again, attaching small metal plates to the boots, as far as I can tell at this resolution. Should have requested higher resolution photos, they surely exist. I just did not think about that I'm gonna be zooming in that much. Anyway, so there is a lot of stuff on these boots, and yes, you guessed it, you should not be playing a fighter character with these boots. Especially you shouldn't be taking part in show fights and dropping kicks with a pair of antlers on your boot. But this looks really freakishly, amazingly overloaded. I think there is also a wrench right here. Yeah. So yeah, this stuff like this works. It totally works. And again, thick sole, mounting things to the thick sole. And obviously you can also go to the inside of the boot with your hand and put some bolts through the inside, and basically the screw sewing method from my video, that would also work. However, you should watch out not to use anything metallic on the inside of your boot in high pressure areas, or it will obliterate your foot. So what's also going on here is that those shoes are dynamically fading into the rest of the leg. I mean, the shoe isn't here on the calf anymore, neither is it on the knee, but starting with this knee area right here, like this entire area is fading into the shoe with this nice distressed effect. So there is more going on than just pimped shoes. And of course, for something like this, which is, let's say, a lot of diffuse area, a lot of undefined, chaotic area, it is really nice to end it with a hard edge, like Mia did right here, with these metal plates or with this metal grid thing, and additional detail on the feet. So, a great composition here, a great example. And I've got some more pictures here that Mia took specifically for me for this video with her phone. So, yeah, this is cute. So this kind of ribbon butterfly, or what it is, I think she has just used some needle and thread for this. Obviously you need some thick needle to punch through something like this, or you just use an awl and then you use the holes made by the awl using a regular needle and thread. And here's some chainmail. So basically whatever can behave like belt, whatever can go around a boot, you can use that. So this is flexible, this is not so much, but yeah, I would like to see how this is mounted to the side. Actually, it's probably mounted to this belt up here, which probably just sits around the boot, not mounted sturdily to the boot itself. At least that's how I would do it. It's just a speculation. Let's see if there is a side view of this. I think not. But anyway, that's how I would do it if you're doing something like this. Maybe she did it in a different way. Again, just find out whatever works for you, man. Just basic post-apocalyptic improvisation, trial and error. That's how we all learned what we're doing today. Oh yeah, the cogwheel boots I mentioned before. I think it's for some High Commander character she's playing. I'm not sure. But looks like it would suit a High Commander because they're high and have big-ass cogwheels on them. So, when you're doing something like this, an advice from me would be mount those details on the outside of your boot. Because A, the outside gets more attention, it's more visible, usually. And B, if you mount large detail like this with large hooks, with large getting your feet caught together potential, you will catch your feet together more frequently because your feet will touch, or your calves in this case, and that's where there is higher risk. So mounting them to the outside in this case was probably a conscious and good decision on Mia's end. And you see here that she did what I mentioned before, just punching some holes into the boots and going in with some bolts from the inside and using a small screwdriver from the inside to hold that bolt in place, and then tension the nut on the outside to mount whatever it is you're mounting. Again, same principles as for any other piece of clothing. Boots are not magic, you just have to keep in mind that there are going to be a lot of pressure areas because they are in a high demand area of your body. Here are the horned, antlered shoes that we've seen before. Oh, it's actually a baby doll mounted here and some really thick cogwheels, look at that. And also this detail with those hose clamps back here on the heel. That's probably the most loaded pair of boots that she has. Also check out this border right here. So amplifying the border is generally a good idea for whatever it is you're doing. And again, some screws just holding those tin can pieces, whatever they're called, in place. Not sure how those antlers are actually mounted. That was quite a challenge, I'd figure. I think they are mounted on a piece of leather that goes around the boot. So yeah, amazing. Here is a piece of a clock right here. I mean a watch, sorry. And its strap is probably just mounted, held in place by this or both of them. Or maybe a small separate screw that goes into the thick sole. And this doll is strapped in with some other piece of strap. next one, here are the boots with the Gators. Well, we have seen those quite in detail. Here you can really see that recess, so standard practice for the Gators is to go into that recess between the heel and the rest of the boot. And you can of course wrap whatever going in this direction, basically using this as a point of support, and go around the foot, the boot, wherever you want. Another pair of boots. Of course you can add patches like this, and there is some net held in place by, again, screws, bolts. Screws are those that go into wood, they're the sharp ones, and bolts are the ones that need a nut on the other end. So screws do not need a nut, while bolts do. And the reason she's using bolts right here is because she most likely just doesn't want to do the really annoying work of poking with a needle through thick leather. I wouldn't either. So for the most part, this is the way to go for all the thick materials. And this works great too. Again, a screw into the side of the sole. You see, it's always the same mechanical principles, tricks. It works here. Screws into the side of the sole, using the recess, using some bolts. Same here. And an amplified border again, which is a great design principle. This time with some thick thread. That was a pain in the ass to make, I can tell you that. Same as this patch. You see it's attached in a patchy way because, again, sewing from the inside of your boot through thick leather, So that's one of the reasons why I don't do modded boots. It's just so much annoying work. It's not that I couldn't, it's just that I never can be asked to. Here's another great pair of boots. So here is again a belt that is probably just laying on top of the boot. I don't know if it's fastened to the boot itself, same as here, but I'd figure that's how it is. Yeah, that's most likely. So that was probably just a belt worn in your pants, and then she added all the detail to that belt while it's not mounted to the boot, and then just made it into a loop, closed it basically, and dropped it on top of the boot. She probably can take this off and wear it with other boots. So talking about modularity, at least I think that's how it's made, judging by the looks here. I can't imagine any other way in this picture. And these are just some basic distressed boots. Again, as I said, boots are no magic. Some scratches, probably some sandpaper that has been at work here, or some other abrasive tool. Some cuts. So this is cool looking, mostly because the boots have some general complexity to them from the get-go, and also the distressing effects. This is actually already enough. You don't have to overload each time. And here we are at the first boot again, so that's it for Mia's pictures. Also check out these boots from my girlfriend, who has just kind of improvised them out of a pair of cheap, wide 20 euros fashion boots. So there used to be just wide boots like this without any laces, and what she did was just, well, cut them up and improvise this lacing. So these are her standard post-apocalyptic boots, but she uses them for fantasy as well, and also for some cosplay stuff. So this kind of stuff can be used for anything, and they don't have to be expensive, but yeah, they have to fit you well and also be practical. And if they look cool to the boot, which these do, then yeah, that's cool. When boots look cool to the boot, yeah, great fun indeed. Alright, guys and girls, I hope this video was useful to you and helped you solve some of your shoe problems. If so, then share it with your crafting group, your tribe, and also subscribe to the channel. And if you're a regular viewer, please consider supporting me on Patreon. It's the first link in the video description. My Patreon supporters are the only ones who keep this channel growing and developing, because YouTube doesn't really pay any money anymore. almost nothing. So, Patreon. Also, hail the snail, and I'll see you in the next episode.